for today. So today we're going to be just the next passage over, Matthew. Oh, just a quick reminder, Betty is going to go back in the back if any of the kids want to go in the back, and she could use one helper.
We've got it.
Oh, you've got it.
Yes. Jeannie
All right.
was back there earlier.
Okay.
Okay.
It's all good then. All right, so we're going to just be, we were in Matthew 18, 15 through 20, and now we're going to be 21 through 35 today. Then Peter came and said to him, Lord, if my brother or sister sins against me, how often should I forgive? As many as 7 times? Jesus said to him, not 7 times, but I tell you, 77 times. For this reason, the kingdom of heaven may be compared to a king who wished to settle accounts with his slaves. When he began the reckoning, one who owed him 10,000 talents was brought to him. And as he could not pay, the Lord ordered him to be sold, together with his wife and children, and all his possessions, and payment to be made. So the slave fell on his knees before him, saying, have patience with me, and I will pay you everything. And out of pity for him, the Lord of that slave released him and forgave him the debt. But that same slave, as he went out, came upon one of his fellow slaves who owed him 100 denarii. And seizing him by the throat, he said, pay what you owe. Then his fellow slave fell down and pleaded with him, have patience with me and I will pay you. But he refused. Then he went and threw him into prison until he would pay the debt. When his fellow slaves saw what had happened, they were greatly distressed, and they went and reported to their Lord all that had taken place. Then his Lord summoned him and said to him, you wicked slave, I forgave you all that debt because you pleaded with me. Should you not have mercy on your fellow slave as I had mercy on you? And in his anger, his Lord handed him over to be tortured until he would pay his entire debt. So my heavenly Father will also do to every one of you if you do not forgive your brother or sister from your heart. So I want to back up just a little bit, because this ties into last week. Remember last week, if you were here, we talked about how to have forgiveness within the church, right? There was this plan of how to deal with conflict in the church. And the conflict, the thing was that there was conflict, and then Jesus said, first you go and you talk to the person you're having the conflict with quietly, right? And if that doesn't work, then you go and just get a couple of other people and you talk together, just a couple of you, and try to resolve it that way. And if that doesn't work, you then go to the whole church, right? And the whole church tries to resolve the conflict. And then if that doesn't work, you treat them like a Gentile or a tax collector. But what did we remember about Gentiles and tax collectors? How did Jesus treat them? And he got in a lot of trouble for spending a lot of time with them, didn't he? He got accused of partying with the Gentiles and the tax collectors because he was trying to win them over. He was trying to help them. So, what did we get out of this? How often do we forgive? How often do we try to reconcile? We just keep at it, don't we? We just keep trying and trying and trying. So imagine yourself sitting there and you just heard Jesus say this. And this is Peter, but it's also me, I admit. And I'm sitting there and I'm thinking about what Jesus has said. And you know what I have? A scenario that I know that's not going to work. And what am I saying to myself? But what about? How often do we say that, folks? We hear what God has to say, and the first thing we say is, but what about? So there's Peter in his mind sitting there thinking, I can think of a couple of times where that wouldn't work. Or I wonder how many times Jesus really meant. He mentioned 3, but I got this sense that what he's really saying is more than 3. You know, he mentioned going to the person in private, then he mentioned just a couple of people, and then he mentioned the whole church. That's 3, but I have a feeling Jesus means more than that. But I can think of some times where that's just not right. So what does he say? So Jesus, you mean like 7 times? What does Jesus say? 77 times. And then he shares this parable. Now, we all know what the parable is saying, don't we? We've been given so much mercy that we should give mercy in return. But there's a little more to this parable. And I'm going to ask Polly to help me. Polly, you can come up here and you can stay there, but you're gonna have a mic. Which do you want? You're so pretty. Come up here. Come on, Polly. Oh, she's gonna kill me afterwards. No more Taco Bell from Polly. I picked Polly actually because she's a straight shooter.
Oh, God.
So Polly, I'm going to give you a story, a scenario, and I want you to be honest about your answers. You're in the parking lot out here, and you're driving out, when suddenly you hear a bang, and you feel that someone has hit the back end of your car. And you look, and somebody has backed out without looking and hit you. How do you feel?
I feel okay. I just get out of the car and go see if everybody's okay.
Okay. And you look out and you see that it's Ruth. It's Ruth. Now how do you feel?
I'm gonna get her.
I should have used one of the other troublemakers in that way. So are you worried that Ruth's going to just jump in her car and run off?
Oh, no. No, she wouldn't do that. She's too honest.
She's honest.
Yeah,
So she gets out of her car and she's all like, oh, Polly, I'm so sorry. Right? That's what you would expect Ruth to do, right?
Yes.
So you're not worried at all? You're not mad?
No, I'm not worried at all.
Okay. Okay. Well, what if instead of Ruth, it's this guy?
Which guy?
This one. Yeah, that guy jumps out of his car. Or this other guy.
Oh, no.
How do you feel?
Well, I want to say, cool it, mister. But that wouldn't be a good thing to do. Just say, please, let's just talk about this.
Even though he's at fault.
Well, we'll see when the cops come.
You didn't call the cops for Ruth.
No, she's sweet and innocent.
But that guy doesn't look sweet and innocent?
No,
No.
not even.
Not even. All right. Thank you. Thank you, Polly. Oh, yes.
I have a little bit to add.
All right. Polly made my point. She's going to treat Ruth totally different than this guy. Why?
His attitude.
But Polly just said it. His attitude, right? But true, she also knows Ruth. And I mean, let's all face it. We look at Ruth. Ruth, stand up for a second. Stand up for a second. Is she just not the sweetest looking person you've ever seen? You don't have to hand on your face.
No, I need to add a word here.
Okay.
I'm having to renew my driver's license this month, and I'm a little worried about it because I don't see quite as well as I used to. And if this gets out.
So everyone wait in the parking lot. But it's true. We treat some people different than other people, even if they've done the same exact thing to us. It's not just that this guy that he's telling this parable about didn't get the fact that he received mercy and he should therefore give mercy. That is definitely part of it. But the difference was, who was the guy that gave him mercy? A king. It was Ruth. Ruth with her little tiara on, right? It was Ruth. It was a Ruth. It was a king. Somebody that he respected, someone that commanded respect. But who was the person that owed him? Just a slave. Just some random person. And that is kind of the crux of this parable, is that we struggle sometimes, not that we don't know that we're supposed to give forgiveness, that we are supposed to give it, but the fact that it differs depending on who the person is. We decide some people are worth being forgiven. And truly, we even sometimes decide that we are worth being forgiven. I mean, let's admit it to ourselves that we kind of think, well, I tried hard to pay all that debt. It wasn't my fault I even gotten all that debt. You know, I tried, I worked, I didn't do anything wrong. So I'm glad the king forgave me because I kind of deserved it. But then we look at someone else and we think, well, they don't deserve it. They didn't go near the debt that I owed. But they don't deserve it either. And so we allow how we view people to affect whether we forgive them or not, or whether we have mercy on them or not. So we really struggle sometimes. If the person is someone that we think of as worthy, as someone that we like, someone that's nice, someone that has a bright smile or just a friendly face, we react totally different if they come out with a face like that, don't we? If they seem different. If they somehow rub us the wrong way, we treat them totally different. So it isn't that we don't know we're supposed to forgive, we just allow a lot of times our forgiveness to be dependent on different factors and the character of the other person. But truly, if God truly did it by character, would we be forgiven? I'd love to think I was that good, but I know I'm not. If it was dependent on character, I don't think any of us would truly measure up. And God forgives all of us and then asks us in turn to forgive all. Whether they're a king or they're just an angry person. Whether they're nobility or just common folk. In God's eyes, we're all the same. Absolutely all the same. And it doesn't matter. And so we are to forgive everyone based on that. Everyone. Whether it's Ruth or Stuart or Margaret or Sarah, we forgive. Now, if Ruth does hit you in the parking lot on the way out, you might want to get her information there. But that is what Peter missed at first. He got that there was something going on here. Something different. Jesus definitely wants me to forgive a bunch, but there are always circumstances where we say, but what about this scenario? You know, I think one of the reasons we don't have a lot of scenarios in the Bible, like there's no 10th commandment that says thou shalt not really talk about, is because would we not, if there were at least one example of an exception, what would we do with it? Yeah, we'd run with it, wouldn't we? Yeah, we'd make sure that my example matched that example, and we run with it. But there is no but. That's what Jesus is telling us in this parable. There's no but. It doesn't matter whether the person deserves it or not. What happens to unforgiveness when we hold on to it?
Sadness to people.
Yeah, it hurts you, doesn't it? Yeah, it festers. Yeah, it doesn't, the other person just keeps on living the way they're living. They don't really care whether you're over there just in pain because they hurt you. And so you're allowing that pain to eat you up and hurt you. So it's so wonderful that God not only was taking care of our relationships and conflict between us and trying to help us all get along better, but He's also taking care of us. Because when we hold on to that stuff, all we're doing is allowing that person to continue hurting us over and over and over again. And they don't even have to say another word or do another thing. You don't even have to see them, and they're still hurting you. So who's losing in that one? You are. So let's try to go this week and not say but. I know it's a challenge. I know it's going to be a challenge for all of us. But that's our goal. Let's let that be our takeaway from today, as that we're not going to put any buts, any exceptions, any kind of rules on how we forgive. We're just going to trust God and do it God's way. Amen.